I was always like edgy and just foggy mentally, and just felt terrible. So every night when I would go to sleep, and Tom and I at that time were like going to sleep at the exact same time, I would take my clothes off before I went to bed, and I would look at myself in the mirror, and like every day I'd be like, oh my god, like you could see it every day, and Tom would look at me and say, oh my god. So everything was just like fat was literally melting off me, which was awesome, but so was my muscle. I was getting weaker. I don't know if it was like gradual or if I would be able to notice it now, but I was definitely getting weaker because by the time I was done, my list had plummeted. So once I started getting real lean and I could see my legs real well, I started getting worried because the velocity diet is kind of it's like been directed for people who are fatter and as like a kickstart to diet. Like the whole purpose of the velocity diet is to start you off with some positive emotional feedback in which you're losing fat, you're getting something done, so you can see the scale go down and feel good about it. You're kind of eating healthy, like Chris Shugart, who wrote it, he'll be like, oh, you're eating way healthier than your friends, but not eating isn't exactly healthy. You got one solid meal a week. One out of 42 thinking 6 meals a day. One. So every week when that meal came by, and it was supposed to, it couldn't be like a gorge meal where it was just a bunch of high foods with a lot of calories. It had to be like what a bodybuilder would typically be eating as a diet meal. So it's just like the most extreme thing ever. So like an example of a healthy solid meal that they're expecting would be like a portion of protein like at 4 or 5 ounces, where you get, I don't know, like 35 grams protein ish, and then like 2 slices of tomatoes, like lettuce, and like broccoli, and I don't think carbs are like an option. You may be able to use like a little bit of oil to get fat in there. I don't know, but the big thing was like protein and vegetables. So I remember this thing being so nuts that for that first let me go back to the purpose of the diet. So his other thing was that you're on this such a severe restriction that you kind of like reset your palate, and like things become, like if sweetened applesauce isn't sweet to you, then natural applesauce may like be bitter to you, but you like reset it to the point where natural applesauce, unsweetened applesauce, is very sweet. So you're less sensitive to, or rather, sorry, more sensitive to salt and sugar and flavor in general. So after the first week, I remember being like so fed up with this thing that when my first solid meal came, I was so excited, and I didn't care about the guidelines that it said. I was like, F this, I've been eating nothing all week. Literally. And so I probably like just whipped out a big frying pan and like cut up some chicken breasts, and I think what I actually made was like chicken breasts with a whole lot of spinach and like diced tomatoes and some other vegetables in like swimming in like balsamic vinegar and possibly oil. And I ate it so slowly, so I knew that when I was done, it would be the end. And I couldn't have another one for a week. And a week is a long time, a very, very long time when you're not eating. So, towards the end of the second week, I started to worry as I lost more fat because the people who this diet was geared towards were fatter. So knowing that I was leaner, and by anyone's standards, I looked real good when I started the diet, I was afraid that I was like hurting myself more than I was helping myself. And I actually had a lot of issues with this this question, this dilemma, because the velocity diet was such an intense thing of discipline where you're not eating for 4 weeks, that I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. I've definitely tested my discipline in the past and shown that I can do anything I want, but this was like the ultimate extreme, and so I wanted to kind of, for ego reasons, just be able to be like, yeah, I did that. But at the same time, I didn't want to hurt myself in the process and make it, have it be a stupid decision, like when you work through an injury or something, and not just sit back and nurse it. So I decided to quit at 2 weeks, not because I couldn't do it, even though I would have had any excuse to stop. It was so terrible. And diet, the rest of the way, just like more slowly, which was probably a good thing because it would have sped up my metabolism a bit more towards the end. But the whole way the diet came together, and a whole just getting ready for the competition, was just like ramshackle, sort of just like piece together things. Oh, I'll do a little bit of this and a little bit of that to get this fat off. Towards the end of those awful 2 weeks that lasted 2 years, I'd begun getting interested in this book that John Berardi was throwing around and trying to sell called Gourmet Nutrition. This beautiful cooking book of just healthy, physique friendly recipes with these great pictures and everything. And so I got it, and it came in the mail. And the first day that I was eating again, I might have even used this as my last healthy solid meal. It was this crazy eggs Benedict with hollandaise sauce. It's legit culinary gourmet meal. And I went to the supermarket to get the ingredients right there that afternoon, and mushing the tomatoes in my backpack to try to fit everything in. Since I had no food, because I hadn't been eating food, so I had to go to the supermarket to get food. So I brought this stuff back in my backpack, and I got to cooking, and I remember having never loved cooking as much as I did, that moment, and any time that I was making that healthy solid meal, because all these things are shakes. So I would just have it wasn't even a blender. I had a milkshake maker where it was this plastic disc that would spin, which did a fantastic job mixing these things. And that's it. And so you just pour the things in the thing and then spin it up and drink it, and there you're done. So I just wanted to cook again and be able to be creative and have flavor. Oh, and speaking of flavor, I became so desperate on this velocity diet that I resorted to licking the dirt. No. I remember just feeling lightheaded. I don't know if lightheaded is the word. Something along the lines of dizzy. You're just not all the way there. And I was wondering early on, I think the first week, if it was just an electrolyte imbalance, because I wasn't getting any salt. So I started salting the shakes as well. I'm putting salt in with the flaxseed, and ugh, the flaxseed made the shakes not taste as good. So I would make the shake, and then I would mix flaxseed and salt into water. And it wasn't just like a little bit of salt where it just like kind of thickens the taste of the water. It like made it salty. So I like have this like salty, this brine of flaxseed, and it was absolutely horrible. But I became so desperate for flavor that when nobody was looking, I would go to the spice cabinet. I would get all the Mrs. Dash. And I would get the cinnamon. And I would get this, and I would get that, and I would get the onion powder. And one by one I would open them up and sprinkle some on my tongue. And I would close it. And I remember what really impressed me was from being a kid, I remember that cinnamon tasted bitter, like just pure cinnamon. And cinnamon tasted so sweet. It was like literally, it's just the cinnamon itself tasted sweet to me, and it still does now. But I just remember that being a big deal. But there was this Mrs. Dash like tomato basil thing that was so good. I think it had like a little bit of maltodextrin in it, so it was just like just what I needed. So when that ended, and it was a Wednesday. I remember it being a Wednesday. I went to the supermarket and I got a whole bunch of stuff. I got all the ingredients for this eggs thing, the hollandaise sauce, and I got to cooking, and it took me like an hour and a half or something of just like cooking, and I was like giddily chopping up these onions and tomatoes and all these things, and presented it all nicely as if, and I like took a picture of it, and then I ate it, and it was gone in half a second, and it felt so good. And after that, I mean, I think I had like a month and a half or something until the competition, or like a month. I don't even remember what kind of stuff I ate then. I think I just, like, every meal was just just about every meal was like a steak or a chicken breast and vegetables, like loaded with spices, and either like mustard or hot sauce or just these free magical foods. And another thing that I just remembered, I started eating carrots with peanut butter. This was before I started tracking calories for diet. I don't remember tracking calories at all. I just like ate as little as I possibly could, while maintaining an adequate protein level, and just getting as much vegetables that I could, because that's all I had. So every meal would be like, you know, chicken, and like half the plate would be covered in like cauliflower and like spinach and squash and broccoli. And I don't know if I put oil on it back then, and I feel like I didn't. And if I did, it would only been a little bit. I kind of regret that, because that was stupid, based on what I know now. Without any fat, like, I was just killing my metabolism, and I would have been less hungry. There'd be